having the capacity to contribute up to 11% of the country's GDP, mining only contributes about 1%, with the legal industry being predominantly run by only two companies, which are Magadi Soda and Base Titanium, currently contributes about 67 billion shillings to the country's GDP, with 1.3 billion shillings for investments, 2 billion shillings in taxes, 1.6 million shillings in royalties paid, and 29 billion shillings in primary sales. According to Kuria, Kenya was ranked position 90 out of 91 in mining jurisdictions in terms of attractiveness to mineral investment, largely due to lack of data. So let's take a look at the numbers. So out of the potential that we have as a country in mining, only 4% of Kenya is currently explored. I mean, that is way too little. And then mineral sector potential stands at around $11.5 billion. And then let's take a look at mining contributions to Kenya, about 67 billion shillings. Now that is the data as currently constituted by the mining board. Let's have a look at more numbers right there. All right. Moving on to matters of shadow budget, and a shadow national budget published by local public affairs and policy analysts consortium has called for the urgent adoption of a predictable tax regime to foster economic growth and mitigate a looming external debt default situation. The shadow budget proposes freezing all new projects during the recovery year, while rescheduling debt repayments to free more money to finance development and recurrent expenditures. Here's more on the same. The shadow budget, dubbed Road to Recovery, released by the Institute of Public Finance Kenya in conjunction with Oxygen Marketing Communications ahead of the June reading of the national budget speech, indicates the need for urgent economic and fiscal management recovery strategies to avert a financial crisis. Such details confirm that the national debt repayment rate, principal and interest is expected to reach a whopping 1.023 trillion by the end of the financial year of 2021 and 2022, representing about 60% of the taxes collected. Speaking at the launch of the shadow budget, the Institute of Public Finance Kenya Chief Executive Officer Mr. James Moraguri said the country had breached all three public debt sustainability thresholds for overall debt and 2 out of the 4 in external debt. Such breaches, he said, places the country on a slopey path that necessitates the adoption of recovery plans and calls for the robust debt management policies spearheaded by an independent debt management directorate. Among other recommendations made were the suspension of development projects as priority is given to clearing the choking debt stock. So is this a sustainable way to go about it?
There will definitely be some positives and some negatives. I think the main negative is in terms of increasing employment opportunities. We might see a slowdown in that because some of these projects would have ended up employing Kenyans who would have been preparing for those positions. On the flip side, there could be a need to free up cash to be able to lighten the country's debt load.
The shadow budget report also proposes that the government should publish a comprehensive review of proposed tax measures to maintain a predictable tax environment. The National Treasury proposes to contract the fiscal deficit by 36 billion to 930 billion shillings in 2021-2022 financial year, compared with the 966 billion shillings in 2020-2021 financial year, to be financed up to 70% from the domestic sources and the balance from the external sources. Brian George, TNO KTN News, Nairobi. And on to an interesting one. President Uhuru Kenyatta has launched the National Land Information Management System that has